Sugar effects on your results. Why do you try and keep your sugar levels low? Okay, so in my opinion, keeping the sugar levels quite low through your nutrition is probably one of the key points to getting your body to change in a short period of time. And same for you, but same for everybody. I believe that a lot of people struggle with this fact, and not struggle with the idea that keeping the sugar levels low is easy or hard to do, but simply not knowing how the body works or how the body breaks food down in order to create energy. So what I'm going to do today is try and give you some ideas of how the body breaks down food to create energy, but what sugar's involvement in that is. So to begin with, I think the easiest way for me to explain this would be to represent your body like a nightclub. A little bit random, but stick with me. Okay, so every nightclub has bouncers. Bouncers are there to let people in, but also to kick people out or to not let people in. So in this case, if you imagine that you eat some food, food ideally is absorbed into the body, into the cells that need the energy, but with every cell, every organ, the body can only take on a certain amount of energy at one time. So therefore, if you were to take on, say, a piece of chicken, chicken's generally protein, but with all food, it will get broken down in some form of sugar in order to be absorbed into the body at the time that it's needed. So if you eat one breast of chicken, the body will be able to take it on board there and then, so therefore it will be able to be used effectively. If you were to take on, let's say, 10 pieces of chicken, the body will maybe only be able to absorb maybe 2 or 3 pieces maximum. But then after that, the body would have to turn the rest of it into sugar and then turn it into fat so it could be used for energy later on. With all foods, it has to go somewhere. The energy from the food has to go somewhere. So if it can't be absorbed into the body there and then, it's going to have to absorb into the body later, and that's when the bouncers will turn it around the back door and turn it into fat in order to be used for energy at a later date. So therefore, when you start to eat the food that you take on a day-to-day basis, you look to aim for high nutrition foods or nutritionally based foods. For example, vegetables. Vegetables generally have a lot less sugar in them. They are massively high in nutrition, massively high in vitamins and minerals, but this can also depend on the types of vegetables that you're taking on board. If you were to have, I don't know, homegrown farmed foods, then you'd find that they're probably even better than organic. There's no pesticides, bug sprays, and just negative sprays that are going to negatively affect the results you're going to achieve. But at the same time, you're going to find that the vegetables are probably higher in price, smaller in size, but this is not necessarily a bad thing. When the foods are generally smaller, they're more nutritious, so therefore the body actually doesn't need as much of the food in one go as you think it does. And sometimes you'll start to feel that you need more food on your plate than you actually do. So in my opinion, I would go for organic or homegrown farmed foods, especially when it comes to vegetables. And then with vegetables, as a general rule, you can pretty much stick to whatever you want. From there we go into fruit. So fruit's very similar to vegetables, but with fruit they're a lot sweeter, so therefore they take on a lot more sugar. So things like bananas, for example. Bananas are very high in potassium. Potassium's great and helps the body to use protein to rebuild muscle tissue. But again, that doesn't mean you need so much potassium that that's all you end up taking on board on a weekly basis. So what you want to try and do is have different types of fruit throughout the day and try and range them in different ways. So you'd have bananas one day, apples another day, maybe grapes, mangoes, and even try and have some fruits that you don't take on board on a regular basis. From there we move over to protein. So protein's got a pretty good name for itself nowadays. So protein's mainly found in meats, fish, eggs, nuts and seeds, all that kind of stuff. The great thing with protein is it sets off a hormone called glucagon. So glucagon is basically the opposite to insulin. And insulin turns energy into fat now, so it can be used for energy later. But glucagon, which is stimulated through good levels of protein in the body, turns the fat that you have in your body into sugar now, so it can be used for energy now. So when you get that feeling that you're starting to feel hungry, your stomach's starting to rumble, then your body is actually looking for energy. So if you've regularly had protein in your diet throughout the day, then the body will find it a lot easier to turn the fat into sugar now, so it can be used for energy now. But at the same time, if you're eating all the time or your meals are too big, then this won't really happen. So in my opinion, you want to keep your meals slightly smaller, but keep them quite regular. And even after exercise, you want to have something small, but have probably 70% protein within that meal, maybe 20% carbohydrate, so the vegetables, and then something like 10% fats within that meal. Last but not least are fats. So fats can again be found in nuts and seeds. The popular ones probably in the UK and I guess Australia will be the different types of oils you can have. So things like olive oil, coconut oil, sesame seed oil. You want to go for the best quality possible. And then in terms of vegetables, you could have things like avocado. I personally don't like avocado, but it's got a very good nutritional value and it's got good fat content. But that doesn't mean you have to eat the whole avocado each time. Probably just half or a quarter per meal, per salad, for example, would be enough. Again, by having too much fat, the body therefore doesn't need what you're taking on board, so will therefore send it around the back door again and turn it into fat that can be used for energy later, but quite a negative energy that could be used for later. By taking good fats on board within your diet, the body will actually get rid of the bad fats that you don't need. So therefore, you'll find you have a much leaner, stronger physique and you feel way more athletic throughout the day and your energy levels will be at an all-time high. So with this, you want to get a balanced meal, lots of vegetables, lots of fruits, lots of protein. Make sure you bring in a little fat throughout each day, so something to cook with. In my personal opinion, I would probably cook with coconut oil because it doesn't change its consistency under high heat. And then I'd put the oils on the picture, so olive oil, sesame seed oil, and things like avocados, I would have them cold. I guess nutritional rebalancing becomes important at this point. So I've put down a little diagram of how I see it. So on the left-hand side, this is someone who, let's say, is obese, who is very high in toxins. So the small circles within the body represent the toxins. So the concept here is the body on the left, the top arrow moving towards the middle, the red arrow moving to the right, represents somebody who's lost weight, but maybe he's gone on like a crash diet. So sure, they've lost the weight, they're massively toxic inside the body. Toxins from the environment, toxins from bad food, pesticides, or even deodorants and makeup that you wear, store themselves in the cells within the body. If you don't detoxify, the toxins will stay in the cells in the body, and that will become quite negative as time goes on, but I'll explain that in a minute. What will often happen is when somebody loses weight but doesn't detoxify, they will actually go back to their original size. So the bottom red arrow that points to the left is basically the yo-yo effect. So you've got the guy who's bigger, loses weight, stays very toxic, then puts the weight back on. If you imagine like a bottle of orange squash, if you put the orange squash into a glass and dilute it with water, what you'd find is if you only add a little bit of water, it's very potent, and you'll find that the taste is very strong. If you add more water to what you need to do, you will find that you dilute the orange squash, so therefore it'll become a little less strong in taste. So that's ultimately like detoxing. So from here, what we're looking to do is to get from the point where you're very toxic, we detoxify the body by basically having foods that have no toxins in them, organic foods, home farmed foods, and just things that aren't from places like McDonald's or aren't packaged meals. So in your case, the Better Body Plan would match that perfectly. So as you lose weight, you will also detoxify. So if you look at the body on the very right, they've now lost more weight than the body in the middle, but now they're very low in toxins, which will actually mean that there's no reason for the body to now balloon back up and go back to its original size. So the idea would be that if you can lose weight and get rid of the toxic waste which is inside the body, your body will therefore stay the way it now is. It will take control of the new physique and the new strength that you gain, and ultimately you're going to look great. So I hope that's helped. With you personally, I would try and stick to roughly 85% healthy foods at the moment. You're in great shape, so therefore you want to keep it that way, which gives you room for a treat. 15% I've put down on here. Doesn't mean it has to be chocolate cake, but it does give you room to celebrate and enjoy times out with friends and family. But ultimately, you're looking to chase the body that you want. So if you ever feel yourself slipping back, you want to pull yourself back over to the healthy foods. But at the same time, if you feel food is a good way to treat yourself, then there's no reason to go out, have some alcohol, have some cake, and enjoy yourself. All right, I hope that's helped. And I'll speak to you soon.